What is up, everyone? My name is Jake Fine, and today we're going to talk about tone. All right, people. We are going to be exploring this piece, which is titled Neo Soul Craziness. Cool. So that's what it sounded like with all of the effects on it. And then this is what it sounds like dry. So as you can see, dry, it already sounds pretty good. There are a few reasons for this. Number one, I really like my instrument. It's a Fender Player Strat. And there's a few things that I consider your first line of defense when you want to have a good tone. So number one, that's like everything is set up on the guitar the way you like, the action. You have strings that you like. I use Elixir Lights. I believe they're 9s. They have a really full tone that I really like. And then I have an audio cable that I also really like. And I think all of those things are your first lines of defenses. I think if you don't have a guitar you dig, you don't have strings that you dig, and you don't have an audio cable that you like, it's going to be hard to get the tone that you want because your first layers there, what is going into your computer, doesn't quite sound the way you want it to. And then everything after that point is just repair. And I think that goes for all recording in general, which is that if you get a really good take and you have a sound that you like with your instruments or with your voice, right? If you make sure all of those things are taken care of initially, it'll be so much easier to get the tone that you want in post. All of that being said as well, I did take a bunch of takes to get this take that I really liked, in which the tone was consistent and everything sounded and flowed the way that I wanted it to. And I think that's very important as well, which is do as many takes as you need to get the tone you want and get the results that you want. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's actually explore the tone that I've got going in Ableton here. Turn on this audio effects rack, but let's turn off all the effects past the first one. So maybe let's explore just the beginning here. I should also mention that I have a Slate Audio subscription, so that's what I tend to use when I'm going for certain sounds, but all of this can be used using different plugins. I think it's really about the order, and it's about tweaking the sound so you get something that you like. And that's basically what I do, is I'll put in the plugins and I'll keep tweaking until it gets what the sound I have in my head, that I want it to become. I keep tweaking until I get there. I have here a saturator. Let me turn off everything else past the saturator. So as you can see, the mix knob is pretty low, but I think one of the aims when you're going directly into the box, into the interface with the guitar, is that it sounds very sterile, and you don't want it to sound very sterile. So I think what you want to do is introduce some character into it, and saturation is a great way to introduce character. Now, you don't want to really get a distorted sound, but you want a little bit more warmth, and you want a little bit more character, and a saturator is going to do that. So yeah, I have just a little bit of saturation, and the mix knob is at 20%. Very subtle. But it adds character. Now, the next thing is pretty important, which is a compressor. I often go between having like this third attack or a fourth attack. So basically, you want it like a medium or slow attack. Part of the reason for this is that I think it gives it a much rounder tone, but when you have a quick release time, it's going to be very present and upfront. And I think that's also something you want, especially from solo guitar performance, like I do often on YouTube over here. So a medium or slow attack compressor. Say I'm aiming for like about 3 to 5 decibels of gain reduction here. And then what I'll do often is I'll take the mix knob and get it to a point that I think has the best roundness, but also the most realism. Like I'm looking for the meeting points of the two. So I want presence and roundness in that tone and warmth, but I also want it to feel real and not highly edited. So it really bothers me that that last chord is slightly out of tune. I know. And it got so many views on YouTube, and the whole time I'm like, oh, the last chord, like I should have melodined the last chord or something just to get the notes in tune. But nevertheless. So that's what we got going on here. The next thing I've got is an EQ here where I've got like anything below 240 hertz reduced by about 3 decibels. And you'll see an EQ over here as well that I'm basically doing the same thing after the amp, but we'll get into that in a second. That's kind of like corrective after I do the amp sim. But here, what I'm basically doing is, the Fenders have a very belly sound. And it has a lot of high end. And if I'm going for a little bit more of a soul or jazzier sound, I'll often just roll off the very top end. So you see this is like 8.25 kilohertz and above is reduced by about 3 decibels. And then the low frequencies here are reduced as well. So you're left with kind of like the nice meaty mids and low mids of the guitar. This is what it sounds. You see, it just rolls off some of that brightness, and that's the main aim. And it also gets rid of some of the low ends that you just don't need. It's not necessary here. Okay, we're back. I had some technical issues, maybe because I'm running Ableton 11 beta, so it was going a little crazy on me. Next thing we've got going on is this is Slate's version of like an amp sim partnered with, I think they're called Overloud. Anyways, it's just an amp that I like, and you can pretty much use any amp sim and just get a tone that you think beefs up that sterile tone that goes into the interface. And honestly, I don't think which amp you use is super important, as long as it has a sound that you like. So this is before. So you can see really I just rolled the tone knobs until, and the distortion and the volume knobs until I got a tone that I liked out of it. None of these effects are engaged. These are just in case I wanted to adjust later on in post or anything like that. Literally all that's going on is the cab and the amp head here. There's also a little bit of a volume differential, which might be faking you out to feel like it's better, which I might have wanted to compensate in the output here, but I didn't. Really, there's no magic here. I really just fiddle until I have a sound that I like. You can see the distortion knob is almost at the top there. I rolled up the bass in the middle and I took down the treble once again, which I'll do a lot because I'm playing a Fender and it just has so much high ends, that's so much sparkle that I'll only use if I'm doing something like funk or pop. So this is what it sounds like. This amp head has a really warm tone, and that's why I chose it. But, in getting the tone that I wanted out of this, by just kind of fiddling with the knobs until I got the tone I want, I thought it introduced too much low end, so I just took it down around 100 hertz here with a gradual Q. It's just a bit too muddy for my taste. You hear that presence and a little bit of mud, low mid mud, but then so this is kind of what we're saying in terms of all your first lines of defense. So I have a take that I like, I have strings that I like, an audio cable that I like, I'm running into a DAW that I like, and then I've made, what is now our amp signal sound really meaty and warm, and it's no longer sterile. It feels more real and more present. So once I've done that, I'm going to create the space. And the space is, I think, where we get a lot of the extra character and flourish. And I think in terms of what I've got going on, I'd say the real secret is that I'm blending two reverbs together. And I think that's part of what sounds very roomy and then very spatial at the same time. So let's focus on the first. First, I've got this Verb Suite small lush guitar room, and it's got 700 milliseconds, so it's very short. I've taken the gain down in here. I've taken the gain down in here as well, just being very careful with not creating too much levels. It has a little bit of chorus and width introduced into it as well. So let's go to the beginning here. That's what it sounds like with the short reverb, and I'll solo that for you. So it's really cool because you could almost think of that as like an immediate reflection. So it feels like what I'm playing now is in a small room, and I think it also kind of doubles the signal, but with character. So you get that sense of space, but you're not overwhelmed by the signal. Then the next reverb that I've got going on, here, this is the dry signal here on the bottom here. The last one is it's a totally free plugin. It's called Realm by Native Instruments, and it's got a great, what I almost want to say, cosmic character to it. It's very, like it says here, it's very airy and it's very stardusty. I don't know if those are real words, but that's what I'm saying. And this is what the reverb sounds like. So you can see there's a lot of shimmer, and I think that's something that I would want from this solo guitar performance, is for it to feel very spacious and it to feel very... like we said, like cosmic, and that it is existing within a larger space, and that it has a bigness to it that wasn't there before when I was just playing it straight into the interface in my apartment. So this is what it all sounds like together. For good measure, I can also show you. What the two reverbs sound like together. You can hear that immediate reflection, and then you can also hear that it kind of gets thrown into a larger space. This is when you just get two. You just get the long and the clean. It's not quite the same as when you have all three signals. That is that. I don't think of myself as a gearhead at all. Basically, I just fiddle with knobs, and what I do is I'll go in and I'll see what tools I have at my disposal, and then I will continue to tweak them until I get the tone that I want. And that's what I would recommend for you as well, is, have a more deliberate goal in mind. Like, this isn't, say it out loud. This doesn't sound warm enough to me. This doesn't sound spacious enough to me. This sounds too sterile. This is too, too much low end. And what you do then is you go about trying to create a signal chain that creates the sound that you're aiming for. And I do that, of course I do have a knowledge of music production, but I'm not a gearhead in the sense that I'm not, thinking about various pedals and an infinite amount of plugins that are at my disposal. I'm really just taking what is available to me and I'm tweaking it until I get the sound that I want. And I think, all of you can do the same, no matter what plugins you have. And like I said, this Realm plugin, it's a free plugin by Native Instruments. So, I'm using it to create that sense of space, but there are a lot of things you can do to create that sense of space and that sense of warmth. And I think it's all at your disposal, and all of you can definitely achieve a tone that you dig. Well, that wraps up today's video. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.